For this 40-year-old New Zealander, a pre-Christmas rendezvous last year ended with an unexpected and unwanted result.
I caught up with an old friend and unfortunately circumstances turned out that I fell pregnant. It was unplanned. I wasn't going to see this person again. So there was a quick time between pre-Christmas catch up to a post-Christmas regret.
Jane, which is not her real name, decided she wanted to have an abortion.
I'm not in a relationship at the moment. I separated last year, early on in the year. I've got 3 children, a single mum. It wasn't appropriate for me to have another child at the moment. And I was clear in what I knew I needed to do. And it was still a really tough step though.
After seeing 3 doctors and a counsellor, as required by New Zealand law, Jane decided to terminate her pregnancy using the abortion pill, known as a medical abortion.
Did the availability of the medical abortion, of the abortion pill, in any way influence your decision to have an abortion?
No, it didn't in any way. I'd made 2 decisions that I didn't want to go ahead and have. At this time, I couldn't go ahead with this pregnancy. And going through that process, I then made a decision that I wanted to do this by having a medical termination. So, and that's a decision that I make as a preference for me.
Compared to Australia, there was remarkably little controversy about the introduction of the abortion pill to New Zealand. But it wasn't all plain sailing.
We were quite impressed with the reports that we saw coming from overseas, so we decided it should be a choice for New Zealand women, and we went ahead and made some inquiries.
In the late 1990s, inquiries by women's health pioneer Dr. Margaret Sparrow revealed that, unlike Australia, there were no legislative barriers to the abortion pill being used here. But there was a commercial problem. The French manufacturer of the drug would only export it to a registered pharmaceutical company, and Dr. Sparrow couldn't find any company in New Zealand prepared to import the drug.
None of the pharmaceutical firms were interested in bringing abortion in because it's quite a sensitive and controversial topic, and it may impact on their commercial products.
So you actually approached some of the big pharmaceutical companies?
Yes.
And what kind of things did they say?
Well, they just felt that that was not something that they wanted to get involved with.
So Dr. Sparrow and 4 other doctors formed their own company.
We named ourselves after the Mesopotamian goddess of love and war because we thought she would be keeping a good eye on us. And once we had formed the company, true to their word, the French manufacturers began negotiating with us, and we eventually signed a contract.
Ishtar then applied to MedSafe, New Zealand's equivalent to Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration.
It cost quite a bit, and we had to finance that, and it took 13 months for it to be assessed by the ministry and then by an independent committee, and then it was approved, and the final approval must be signed off by the Minister of Health. But we didn't have any problems with our Minister of Health, and normally if MedSafe approve a drug, then she will sign it, and it was gazetted in August of 2001.
At this private abortion clinic in Auckland, women have been offered the choice of using the abortion pill or having surgery for the last 2 years.
Because they had heavy bleeding or something associated with
Around 14% of Dr. Alison Knowles' patients have opted for the pill.
To comply with the law in New Zealand, as I mentioned before, it's necessary for the woman to meet 2 certifying consultants or 2 doctors, and this is the room where she'll come to meet the second doctor, and that's the doctor that will be actually giving the lady the abortion pill, the Mifegyne, which we keep down here.
The trade name for the pill is Mifegyne. It actually hasn't been called RU486 for many years.
Each tablet's worth just over $100 in New Zealand.
Unlike surgical abortion, which can take under 10 minutes, abortion via Mifegyne is a process that spans 3 days.
Then once she's had the abortion pill, we keep an eye on her for about half an hour, and that's just in case she feels nauseated and vomits the pill. This is all on what we call day 1, and for us that's a Tuesday. And then the patient has my phone number and doesn't come back to the clinic until Thursday morning. They normally come in sometime between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on the Thursday, which is a day and a half since they took the pill.
On this second visit, women are given a different suppository medication that causes the uterus to expel the now ended pregnancy.
The majority of the women, say 3/4, pass the pregnancy within 4 hours. So if they're getting the misoprostol from the nurse at between 9 and 10 a.m, the majority of them have passed the pregnancy by midday to 2 o'clock.
And do women leave here before that happens, or do they stay here for the day?
Oh, we like to keep an eye on them.
On the Thursday morning, you go back to the clinic. You are given 3 tablets to insert into your vagina. You can, like, if you want somebody else to do that, if you want the nurse to do that, that's offered to you. But you're given this. This is your experience. You're working through it.
So you chose to do that yourself?
I chose to do that myself.
Wellington Public Hospital, where Jane had her abortion, only allows women to leave after this stage if they have a support person to pick them up. Jane's lift fell through, so she stayed in the clinic.
The moment that you start bleeding, you go to the bathroom and you got to go to the toilet and you realise that the blood is starting to discharge tissue. It's like starting period. Things are starting to come away. There's a container that you place inside the toilet and you discharge into there. That is a really aware moment, I think, for anyone, because that's the reality of the whole 6 weeks that's led up to what you are at that moment that this happened. You made a decision. I was still comfortable with my decision. I was still really aware of the reasons why I'd made my decision. But you are working through it. It's not something that's happening over there. It's not something somebody else is in charge of. It's about you going through something very personal to you.
Strict protocols exist on the use of the abortion pill here. For first trimester terminations, it's only available if you're less than 9 weeks pregnant. You must live within an hour of an emergency hospital, and you must speak English fluently so you can communicate over the phone if there's a problem at home. Protocol in each country is different. In the USA, for example, women can actually take the pill at home. Based on her experience, Jane rejects any suggestion that the abortion pill is a quick fix.
It wasn't quick and gone, and sometimes when quick and gone with things that you have in life, it doesn't give you a chance to actually walk through what's going on. The reality is it's a decision to take that much time through and to acknowledge this isn't going to be something that it's not going to be done in a day. Not only do I have 3 appointments, 3 times I've got to go to the hospital and have that all organised and have that time available. You know, there's 2 weeks after that, that's pretty solid, where you're going to be working through bleeding.
Here at the Auckland Abortion Clinic, there's been a comprehensive study of the nearly 400 terminations they've done using the abortion pill. The results show that in these medical abortions, there's a complication rate of 1.6%.
And what kind of complications were they?
1.6% accounted for only a handful of patients, and there was one that needed to be admitted with an infection. and 2 or 3 had retained products of conception, and that's when there's a tiny amount of pregnancy debris left behind, i.e. an incomplete termination, and that can subsequently lead to bleeding or infection.
And how does that figure of 1.6% compare to surgical abortions?
Over that same period of time, our reported surgical complication rate was incredibly low at only 0.5%. So you would have to say that over that initial 2-year period, there were a higher percentage of complications amongst some medical termination patients. However, the seriousness of some of the complications that women having a surgical termination experienced could be seen to maybe be more severe. We had one woman over that same period of time who unfortunately had a perforation of the uterus.
Were there any deaths from the medical abortion?
No. Since abortion's been legalised in New Zealand, there's never been a maternal death from a legal abortion in New Zealand.
So what's your medical opinion on how safe it is based on the research you've done over the last couple of years?
I think medical abortion in early pregnancy is extraordinarily safe if it's undertaken using strict protocols and follow-up of the woman.
Other doctors who regularly prescribe the abortion pill in New Zealand say safety-wise it's no better or worse than a surgical abortion. Dr Carol Shand works at Wellington Public Hospital, where they've performed thousands of medical abortions.
I think the safety is much the same. I think women need to be described the process and decide which they feel most comfortable with.
In stark contrast to the at times hysterical debate in Australia, New Zealand seems to take a very pragmatic approach. Are the pros and cons huge over surgical or medical?
No, I think it's just, it seems fair to women, where possible, to give them a choice of the procedure that they might need to have if they're needing to have an abortion.
Women's Health Action can help.
But how much choice do women seeking an abortion really have?
And you're pretty sure that you want an abortion? Okay.
This women's advocacy centre in Auckland takes calls from women who are wanting to know what their options are for dealing with unwanted pregnancy. For many, the abortion pill is not an option.
I think we're lucky that we have medical abortions available in New Zealand as an option, but I don't think they're actually a real choice for many women.
And why do you think that?
I think that because there's only 2 places in all of New Zealand that offer them, and only one of those is a public facility. So there's only one place you can go to get a medical abortion on the public purse. And I think also the kinds of conditions that have been put around it mean that it's also difficult for women to access medical abortions. In Auckland, you can only access a medical abortion if you're prepared to pay for it, and that's at the private clinic, which is between $1,000 and $1,200.
But yeah, Jane had her termination at the only public hospital in New Zealand that offers the abortion pill.
I was really grateful that I was given the opportunity to do this. It has certainly made my recovery much stronger, I think, for me as a person. I feel very, I have the ability to sit and have this interview. I feel very confident about me as a person having gone through this process. And I'm grateful that I was given that.
And you think that was because you were given a choice of...
I think that definitely was because I was given a choice. It was in my hands.
Has the availability of medical abortion increased the number of abortions?
No. In fact, last year, 2005, was only the 2nd year ever that the total number of abortions in New Zealand went down. And that's just despite continuing population increases. So there's no evidence to support that having medical abortion is going to increase the number of abortions. It's just ridiculous.